Welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, this build is completely adaptable to the FX3. The only difference you're going to have is the use of the included FX3 top handle should you go that route. I built out this rig this way after I got my Sony FX6, which is what this is being shot on now, and it is solely for run and gun shooting. All the gear I show off in this video will be linked in the description below. The first thing we're going to talk about is a cage. Like most things here, it's made by Small Rig. So this is a full-size cage. It has two cold shoe mounts, which I wish more cages honestly had. A side nano rail for things like handles, which I don't personally use. I find them awkward for me. And most importantly, the biggest reason I got this cage is that it has a built-in quick release system for the Arca Swiss. This feature is the core of this build. I wanted universal utility when it came from going from handheld to tripod to gimbal. And everything that I just listed there is all being used by the Arca Swiss mounting system. Now for the V-mount plate. This is probably one of the pieces of this rig that I get asked about most. I hated having the big clunky block of metal with the two rods sticking out just to have my battery mounted to the back of my system. And that is where this guy comes in. It is a V-mount battery plate with an Arca Swiss built into it. The point of this is that with the built-in Arca Swiss on the cage, I can basically put my camera on and off of this battery plate within seconds. This plate also folds 90 degrees backwards so you can access your screen at any time. It extends out in case you have a bigger camera, and it packs up flat. At $100, it is a bit pricey, but it is so well made and it resolves such a big issue of having that massive block of metal underneath your camera that for me personally, I think it's worth the price. It's one of the few things that I will pay a premium for. And once you feel it on your own camera rig, there's really just no going back. I've had a few top handles in the past year, but this one from Small Rig has got to be one of the best ones I've ever had. There are definitely smaller handles out there that I could get to make this a little bit more compact, but the ergonomics of this handle are just unmatched. It has a rubber grip underneath where your fingers lay, which honestly makes a bigger difference than you might think. The finger cutouts are deep for a nice firm grip, and it has 5 cold shoe mounting options, 2 RA locating pins, and plenty quarter 20 mounts. This particular version I'm using is mounted via NATO rail, which just adds to the quickness of being able to tear down and build this rig out. Now let's talk about what's actually mounted to the camera. I won't go too in depth on what I use, as I believe most of this is just personal preference. It pretty much just covers audio, monitoring, and battery. But let's start with the monitor. I use the Atomos Shinobi 4K 5-inch monitor, and honestly I can't recommend it too much because the colors that I see on this monitor versus what the camera is actually producing are usually way off. The shadows are completely crushed, the highlights are completely blown out, and I don't know if it's just user error or a setting that I have on my camera, but for me, it's just unreliable, especially when trying to use things like false color. Another big thing that I think is a huge oversight is there's no 4/3 grid on here. So trying to use composition grids is not available on this monitor, which the whole point of a monitor is to compose your shots. So I'm not really sure where they went wrong there and who let that pass, but definitely a massive oversight in my opinion. I've already made a separate video on my audio workflow, which you can find up here, I think, one of these. But for me personally, I use the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus I have for the past 5 years, and the DJI Lav mic kit, which is what I'm using right now. And more often than not now, this rig is usually not worried about audio, so I don't even have a mic attached to it most of the time. It's typically on a gimbal, being handheld for just capturing B-roll, or it's mounted to a tripod as just a B-cam. But for those times that I do need to get on-the-fly interviews, being able to load up the audio onto this or a mic real quick makes this such a good, solid, and flexible running gun rig. And lastly, the Small Rig V-mount battery. Now, I won't lie and say that I didn't purchase this at a premium price basically for the aesthetics of it, because I did. But it does have a couple key features that I really enjoy, which is basically the USB-C charging and output, as I'm trying to move all of my power outputs that I can to USB-C. So things like my mic kit, my V-mount batteries, my iPad, and other things all charge via USB-C. And for me, it just makes it a lot easier to keep things charged up, and in a pinch, I can go get a USB-C cable pretty readily. Not only can I shoot a full day of events with just 2 of these 99s, but it's also very easy to find a place to plug one in while I'm using the other one and charge it up. And they do charge up rather quickly. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the workflow this camera basically provides me. I keep this rig mounted to a DJI Ronin plate, which is compatible with Manfrotto tripods, which is all I own right now and what most people own. And go figure, but the tripod that I mainly use is the Small Rig Trailblazer tripod, and it is obviously compatible with this plate. And so for me, being able to quickly go on and off of the tripod to the Ronin to handheld to whatever is completely invaluable to me. This plate also has a built-in Arca Swiss plate, which just adds to the increased flexibility of rigging this thing out. All in all, this build is phenomenal for social media content, for pickup shots, B-roll, interviews, whatever. And paired with my Sony FX6, there's really not many scenarios I can't capture. If you like this video, let me know. If you want to see more, let me know. I do a lot of BTS and just kind of following doing along my journey of becoming a freelance filmmaker. So if you want to see more of that, click that right up there, and if you don't, then don't click that. But I thank you for watching anyways, and have a good day. Peace.